And we are live. Hi, everybody. Hi, chat room. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the pre-show for today's what is today? Today is the N10-008 Network Plus study group, of course. I've got A plus in my head for some reason. No, today is all Network Plus. All Network Plus all the time. We've got plenty to go through. Okay, got headphones on now. I can do stuff. Oh, that bird cam just does not seem to be bright enough. I think it's because I've got that new light and it's kind of shining into the bird cam. Got a little bit of spill there. So sorry. I got to work on that. Got to work on where all that's going. All right. Got the study group content. That looks good. Hey, chat room. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being here. We've got cameras are set up. Recordings are going. Stream looks good. I think we're in pretty good shape. We're doing just fine. It's going to be a busy couple of days. We've got Network Plus today. We'll do study group today. And then we've got a Security Plus study group tomorrow. Back to back. That's just because that's the way my schedule went. I have all kinds of crazy. It's a chaotic time of the year, isn't it? There's all kinds of things that have to be done at a certain time, and you have to fit them into the schedule that you normally have for everything else. And, well, you know how that is. So I apologize for moving things around, but I appreciate you being here. We've got plenty of Q&A. I barely remember it. I was flipping through earlier just so I could remember what questions did I write. I usually write these questions usually the weekend before a live stream. This one happened a little bit. I think I tried to do almost everything 2 weeks ago. So almost all of the questions were written so long ago that I don't remember what they actually were. Details. But here we are. Hey, chat room, thanks for being here. Thanks for checking in. We've got a lot to go through today. I will do the Q&A for what we're doing here. We'll do the Q&A in the first hour, and then I'll take questions from the chat room in hour number 2. So we got a full agenda to go through. Oh, if I could get these, I've been working on lighting in here. I've been working on moving cables around. I've been working on kind of consolidating the studio into the desk, because there used to be equipment in the other room. There used to be streaming content, streaming equipment was over there, but now everything is here. So I don't even have to stand up. I used to have to go to the other room to go live, and then I could come back in here. That wasn't so great. I like having everything in the desk. I like having everything here. The only thing I haven't done is there's a light in the back that I have not moved over yet. I moved over the light that's one of these lights in the back. I moved over this one. So that light has been moved, but the other one has not. So got a lot. Quick rundown of all my devices. There is no such thing as a quick rundown. As you can tell, there are quite a few devices here. Audio, video, what you see, slides. That's kind of it. Chat room, video switching console, streaming console. That was pretty quick. There's a lot to this. I keep saying that I'm going to do a video that kind of goes through each component of this and what I'm currently running. Right now, I think the closest thing I've got is out on professormesser.com/studio, but even that needs to be updated because I've swapped out my lights. I definitely have a fresh coffee here. Today we're doing a Starbucks Pike's Place Nespresso. That's what that is. Got that here. Put that down. But I have to move a lot of things around to kind of put everything in the desk. And I still have a number of wires that kind of string across the ceiling. into the other room, which is great when I needed it, but now I don't need it. So what do? At some point, I'm going to have to get on a ladder, which Mrs. Professor Messer does not like me doing. So maybe I'll get my son to get on. One of my sons will get on a ladder, and I'll tell him, grab that, pull this, bring it down. We'll do one of those things. This is a real challenge sometimes to kind of keep track. The studio itself keeps morphing. Light technology has changed. Video switching technology has changed. The only thing that's really been the same in here since I started was the audio. This has been a fantastic mixer. And so that's been the one investment that has not moved in, what's it been, 10 years? It's just been the same, which has been great. But everything else is swapped out at some point. In front of me is an iMac. It swaps out every 3 years or so. Hopefully there'll be a new one coming in 2022. The monitor gets swapped out. It's a newish monitor that connects to the iMac via Thunderbolt. This is for, right now it's showing the time, but this shows my slides and what slide is next. So I can talk to the next slide. And this is how I move the slides around right here. And the slides are being shown from this laptop, which seems a little redundant, but it works for me. Josh in the chat room with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Josh. Josh says, received my A+ earlier this year. Just earned my Security Plus last weekend for DoD 8570 purposes. Yep, pretty important if you're doing anything with the U.S. federal government, especially Department of Defense. That is a critical one. So congratulations on that. That's a tough one. Now preparing for Network Plus. Network Plus will be different, but hopefully it'll be a little bit less stressful and easier to pull in everything. Plus, you've got a little bit of Security Plus, and some of that content overlaps. About 10 to 11% of Security Plus has Network Plus type content on it. So that's what that's about. But we sure appreciate it, Josh. Thank you for the super chat. That's just one of those things that really gives us encouragement, kind of keeps things going, keeps the lights on, and we sure appreciate it. Thank you so much. And best of luck with Network Plus. This will be a good check. We'll see how well Network Plus goes for you to see. It turns out Network Plus and Security Plus, there is a little bit of an overlap. It seems like there's a lot of overlap, but there really isn't. About 11% of the exam objectives overlap. And that's really about it. There are some objectives that overlap, but really they don't. Talking about firewalls on Network Plus is a completely different discussion when you're talking about firewalls on Security Plus, because it is. It's a very different thing. So that's why. Oh, see how we do. Nick in the chat room passed your N10-007 last month. Congratulations. Glad the videos and study groups helped. I always like getting the Network Plus certification. Any networking certification is valuable. And Network Plus is probably, really, it's one of the few entry-level beginning networking certifications you'll find. It's just one of those that it's hard to find. I think CompTIA has kind of cornered the market, if you will, on those entry-level certs. And networking, of course, touches everything. It doesn't matter what you're going to be doing in IT, you're going to be touching a network. So why not be knowledgeable in the networking side of things? Just makes sense to me. Johnny in the chat room, taking your Network Plus tomorrow. Best of luck with that. It's going to be great. You're going to do fine. Let's kind of get some things going here. Do I have the right graphics ready to go? I think I do. I think I already put them in. Network Plus? Yes, I do. So we're good. We're good there. Got lots to go through on this. We've got questions, Network Plus questions day. This is an N10-008 study group, but there is a little overlap. So you'll have a chance to get a little bit of overlap with those. All right, getting close to the top of the hour. That means that I need to get my keynote. There it is. Ready. I need to get a green light. There's my green light. And I think we could probably do a live stream, shouldn't we? Let's do one, everybody. This will be great. Let's punch this up and see how we do. This episode of Professor Messer's N10-008 Network Plus Study Group is sponsored by Uncle Phil's Fudge. Homemade, small batch, hand-cut fudge with the freshest ingredients. Visit UnclePhil'sFudge.com and use coupon code 5 for 20 for traditional fudge and 4 for 24 for plant-based fudge. Oh, it's so good. UnclePhil'sFudge.com. Well, thank you, everyone, for being here. We have the N10-008 study group today. We have so much to go through. This is our Network Plus study group of the month. We usually will do a first hour where I will ask you questions that come directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. And in the second hour, I'll take questions from the chat room. We will absolutely go through a number of different topics, anything dealing with IT or Network Plus, or really almost anything associated with that. I think you'll be in pretty good shape. Everything that we're going to do today, if you are here live, we would love to have you participate in this live stream by going to professormesser.com/QA. Just pop open a new browser window, go right to that particular link. That will take you to a question that's waiting for you. If you would prefer using an app on your mobile device, of course there's an app for the mobile device. Go to your favorite app store and go to download the Socrative student app. You don't want the Socrative teacher app. That's the one for me. You want the Socrative student app. It will ask you for a room name. That room name is right there on the screen. Professor Messer, Professormesser. Make sure you spell it right, or there won't be a question there. Now, if you do everything that way, there will be a question waiting for you. That question asks, which utility would be most associated with this output? And I have a big screen of output right there. There it is. Now, if you think you know the answer and you know what that output happens to be, I have a link on the screen you visit. Please don't answer in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. That's our standing rule. But if you go to that link on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, you can put in what you think that output happens to be. Now, those of you who are listening on the podcast, let me read to you what this output says. This output says, scan report for 10.1.10.1. Host is up with 0.0070 seconds latency. Not shown, 992 closed ports. The port, the states, and the services are then shown. For example, port 22 TCP is filtered. That service is SSH. 23 TCP is also filtered. That service is Telnet. TCP port 53 is open. That service is domain. TCP port 80 is open. That's HTTP. And then it goes on from there. There's a number of other ports that are filtered and open. And at the bottom, it has the MAC address of this particular device. And it also puts out that this is the Technicolor CHUSA is the name of this device. We'll talk about what that device is and what that question is in just a moment. We will come back to all of that. Well, thank you for being here. We're going to do, although this says N10-007, I'll explain why that says that in a moment. This is our N10-008 study group, but there is still a bit of overlap. We'll talk about that overlap in a moment. But we, of course, have new videos and all of our existing videos on our YouTube channel. You can find that at professormesser.com/YouTube. We also have a weekly Network Plus pop quiz question. You can find that on Twitter at professormesser.com/Twitter. And if you like a pretty picture with your questions, professormesser.com/Instagram. Before we go on, Denser Future in the chat room has already hit us with a $10 super chat here at the very beginning. Just got hired a few weeks ago for my first cyber role. Have Security Plus. My boss challenged me to get Network Plus within the first month. So excited for your lessons. Thanks for being here. Thank you for the super chat. And I think your boss is right. Having a knowledge of networking is a valuable thing because, as I mentioned in the pre-show, the network touches everything in IT. The more you know about the network, the more you'll know really about everything in IT. It's remarkable how that skill, that set of knowledge will work with you throughout your career. So thank you also for the super chat. We should sure to appreciate it. There are two, count them, two Network Plus certifications, exams that you could take right now. There's only one Network Plus certification, but there's two exams that you could take to earn that certification. You only need to take one of these. One of them is the N10-007. This was an exam that was released on March the 1st of 2018. It will retire, we think, around the end of June 2022. So June 2022, sometime in there, this will retire. So if you are studying for your N10-007 exam, that is the one that's been around for the longest time. It's the one that certainly has the most number of study materials available for it. That N10-007 exam will be retired in June, which is plenty of time for you as we sit here in December of 2021. So if you're studying for the 007, keep studying for that 007 and take your 007 exam. That exam is 90 minutes long. You can get a maximum of 90 questions, could be fewer. We got a score of 720 that you need to earn on an odd scale between 100 and 900. So is it really 800 points? You need to score 620? I don't know. CompTIA doesn't really explain why they have such an interesting scoring system. And the exam itself consists of both multiple choice questions and performance-based questions. Now, as many of you have noticed, there is a new exam that has been released. And as CompTIA normally does this, when they release a new exam, they don't just pull the old one because you're studying the old one. Instead, there's an overlap period where you could decide which one of these you would prefer to take. The N10-008 was released on September 15th of 2021, so it is now 3 months old. Congratulations at being 3 months old, N10-008. The problem with being a 3-month-old exam is there are much fewer exam materials to study from than there are for the older version. So there are some significant, I wouldn't call them disadvantages, but certainly concerns if you're trying to decide which exam do you go with. The 008, the newer exam, is probably going to have fewer resources available for you. But right now, we've been about 3 months. There tends to be a good number of resources available on the market. I think we're finding a bit of parity there finally to be able to get there. The estimated retirement for that exam, March of 2025. Got plenty of ramp, plenty of time if you're working on the N10-008. My goal for you, though, is just to get certified. I don't care which exam you take. And in fact, it doesn't matter which exam you take. Pick one, take that exam, because the certification that you earn is exactly the same. There is no difference between the piece of paper that you earn or the certification that you earn, whether you take the 007 or at the 008. And you can take that. Both the 007 and 008 are offered at all of the CompTIA, really Pearson VUE testing centers. Some people are saying 007 is not at my local test center. Yes, it is. It is. It will still be around until June. So you can absolutely take the 007. If they're not showing it, you should probably contact them and find out why they are not. But absolutely pick the one that is best for you, not best for your testing center. That's the important part. We've also got all of our videos online, our 007 videos, our 008 videos. Everything is out there. You're more than welcome to have a look. My success bundle for both the 007 and 008 is available on my website, where you can get video downloads, audio downloads. My course notes are there. My exam hacks ebook. Everything is available for you to download right there, professormesser.com/netsuccess, or simply follow the links that are on the Professor Messer website. I've also got a replay of this live stream available immediately afterwards. You can find it on the YouTube. There is also a podcast version of this, an audio-only version of this available in podcast form. You can find it at professormesser.com/podcast. Of course you can. That's where it would be, where you can find my A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus podcasts listed there. And those will absolutely be included. If you subscribe, you'll simply get them downloaded to your device whenever that happens. If you go out to YouTube sometime in the next day or so, my marketing manager, Lori, has to listen to this whole thing. Sorry, Lori. She's watching now. or will be watching the replay. Everybody say hi to Lori. She is, of course, going to provide a list of all of the timestamps for these live streams. You can go back years and find these timestamps. So plenty of content there where you can jump directly to what you're looking for. It's just built into the YouTube video description. When we're not here live, we're always on Discord. You can find us on Discord at professormesser.com/Discord, or follow the links on my website to click over to the Discord chat server. And if you have a question for me or a question for others, people are always out there. You can throw your question out there. And it's a really great community. People are so willing to help and so willing to answer questions. Highly recommend it. professormesser.com/Discord. Also, as I always tell people, when you're ready to take your exam, you need to either pay online at full price with Pearson VUE, or you could buy a voucher for a discount. And as I say, never pay full price for your CompTIA exam. I can provide you with a voucher that is already discounted. You don't need any coupon codes. You don't need to hunt around the internet. You don't have to put one of those weird extensions into your browser to find the best price. I already have the best price. It's at professormesser.com/vouchers. Already discounted, already there and available for you to purchase. And if you purchase the voucher on my site for your A+, Network Plus, Security Plus, or any of your CompTIA exams, you get a free copy of my Exam Hacks ebook. Something just thrown in there for free, which can help you with your studies, help you with strategies that you can use during the exam to earn more points on this exam. And if you do have to take the exam again, I have some tips and tricks for you for taking the exam again. Well, there's you can find that link, by the way, at professormesser.com/vouchers. Also want to mention the chat room, Antonio with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Antonio. We appreciate that. Antonio writes, thank you for everything you do. Thanks for your great content. I am now A+, Network Plus, and Security Plus certified. I wish I had some type of something on the screen that would be fireworks or something of that sort, because that is 3 very challenging exams to get through, or really 4 exams to get through all 3 of those certifications. Congratulations, Antonio. Glad we could be a part of it. Thank you for the $10 super chat and for your support as well. Let's go back to that question we asked earlier, which was this one. What utility would be most associated with this output? This is a question that has a number of different options available. I didn't give you those options. I wanted to have you think about them. But those different options are traceroute, Nmap, pathping, IP tables, and NS lookup. Let's see how you answered this one. 82% of you must remember this question from last week. This is our rewind question. And this is a question that sees if you first can remember what we talked about last week or last month. And secondly, it does ask a question about knowing this output from these commands. This is clearly the Nmap command. 83% of you think that way. Only 9% of you chose IP tables, which is a filtering technology that is built, one of the many filtering technologies or firewalls built into the Linux operating system. This would not be output from IP tables. 3% of you said trace route. We're not tracing any routes here. We're looking at open, closed, and filtered port numbers. 5% of you said NS lookup, which NS lookup is a name service lookup, which can either provide us with names, fully qualified domain names, or IP addresses of devices. In this case, we weren't looking at fully qualified domain names. We're looking at ports that are available. And nobody said it's pathping. Does anybody use pathping? But it's in the certification. Somebody must use it. I'm really interested in knowing how you use it and how your best strategies are for using pathping. I have my own ideas of what I would do with pathping, but it's not one that I commonly use on my Windows machine. Nmap was the right answer here. Nmap stands for Network Mapper, and it is a great way to find open ports, identify operating systems, and do a lot more. It's a very, very amazing little security utility. And the more you know about Nmap, the better security technician you will be, the better networker you will be as well. The answer in this case, very obviously, 84% of you chose Nmap. That is the correct answer. So as many of you know, when we do these study groups, the first new question of the study group is not a multiple choice question. like this last one was. It's a performance-based question. And I have this isn't going to work very well, I think, for your podcast folks, because this is more of a visual question, which has 4 different interfaces on the screen. And I want you to match the interface or the cable that's listed there to the name of that device. So this is not a fill in the blank, thankfully. It's a matching question. But you can see I have 8 different interfaces listed, but only 4 pictures here. So it's definitely not a one-to-one. It's a little more challenging than having 4 pictures and 4 answers. It's 4 pictures and 8 answers, 4 of which you will use. So it's a little bit different, a little more challenging, I hope, to be able to find out what these happen to be. And it's difficult to describe these on the screen. The best I could say, if I wanted to really be, I don't want to give any hints away, but we have 4 different pictures on the screen. One is copper related with some type of modular connector. The other looks to be fiber. The third picture is also looks like a fiber, but they're very different in style and how they look. That doesn't help you if you're listening in, of course. And the fourth one looks like a copper connector with what looks like 9 connections on it. So that's the best I can do for you. Now, if you think you know the answer, there is a link on your screen, professormesser.com/QA, that can absolutely help you find where you're going to answer this question. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room, and figure out what these happen to be. This is one type of challenge on the exam you might run into. These, in fact, is a pretty good performance-based question, because being able to recognize and being able to see what are these interfaces and know them by sight is going to be important. You're going to run across all kinds of different connections on the screen or on these devices that you run into. And networking is a little bit different than maybe operating systems or security, because when we install networking equipment, it tends to sit there a long period of time. We plug it in, and as long as it's running, we'll keep that equipment in place. There's very rarely will we need to upgrade this in 2 years or 3 years. In fact, we commonly think of network equipment as sitting there for at least 5 years, and in some cases can even sit there even longer, as long as everything's operating normally. Now, sometimes in the industry, we have had times where we have done upgrades to our infrastructure because new technology was available, but we don't tend to do a lot of that in our industry these days. It doesn't tend to move quite that fast. Normally, if we're installing or plugging in one of these components, that's where they stay. So you're going to run into so many different kinds of interfaces. And it's kind of a game. You can look at the back of a piece of equipment, and you should be able to name what every single one of those particular interfaces is used for. I think that's a fun thing to do. If you ever have some time on the Google and you do a Google image search of switches, routers, switch interfaces, router interfaces, firewall interfaces, WAN interfaces, and you can start picking out what they happen to look like. So that may be a good study tip for the things you're doing. Let's go through each of these and see how you answered. We'll start with the very first one on the list. It seems to be a modular connector there. And the important part of that one is you sort of have to count how many different wires can possibly be put into this device. You can see there are 6 particular places where you could put wires, but only 4 of them have connectors inside of them, which means that is an RJ11 connector. The RJ11 connector commonly used for our plain old telephone service or POTS lines. If you're working with analog telephone, if you're working with telephone inside someone's house or SOHO, this is very commonly what is brought in for those analog phone lines. That is something you don't run into a lot, but if you have DSL, for example, DSL certainly has RJ11 coming in because it's doing that as well. Let's go to the next one, number 2 on our list. That's definitely a fiber connector, no question about that one. That is a straight tip, ST, or straight through, or S. It's one of those where you really do have to go through all of these. That is a ST connector. It has a bayonet connector on it, so you push it in, you turn it a quarter of the way, and it locks in. And to get it out, you twist yourself and then come back out again. There's lots that you could go through with these. Whenever I start looking at all of the different options that you might have, the fiber connectors can be almost overwhelmingly confusing. So if you can start identifying them by sight, it's going to help you quite a bit as you step through all of these different devices you will use in your career. Third on the list, another fiber connector. And I think of this one as kind of the square connector because it has kind of a square, you see them, they're sort of squared off around the different fibers. That is a standard connector. SC is the fiber connection type that you would have for that one. Sometimes the SC connectors are not pushed together or connected together on the outside. You can pop these out and they could be single strands. So sometimes you have to kind of move them around so you get transmit and receive done the proper way. You'll plug it in the wrong way and like, oh, we need to twist those around so we can get conversations going back and forth between those two devices. And last on our list, a 9-pin copper connector. Well, it almost gives it away. That's a DB9. Technically DE9. But every time I bring that up in my videos, people have to correct me and say, no, that's DB9. Actually, it's DE9. We call it incorrectly DB9. It's one of those weird things in our industry where we've all decided to call it the wrong thing. And now that we all call it the wrong thing, that's what we all call it now. And it's not even right, but we agree that's what it is. Kind of an odd thing. The D stands for the type of connector it is. You can see it kind of makes the shape of a D. There are larger ones that have a number of pins. A DE15 or DB, DD, DE, DF is the size of the D. So that second letter describes the size of the D, and the smaller size that you're seeing there is actually the E size. If it had 25 pins on it, it would be the B size. But we just call it DB9 because that's the way we do this. The subscriber connector, the square connector, the standard connector has many different types of terms, but that's what you would find with SC. The DB9 clearly is copper. So a little mix there between the copper and the fiber there, between the 1, 2, 3, and 4 questions that we have. We had others that were left over. For example, RJ45 was left over, commonly used for our Ethernet connectors, where you have those 8 different pins inside of it. You've got F connectors. That's a real connector. That's that screw-on connector you use with your cable modem or your cable television. That's an F connector. We've also got B and C connectors. In this case, we don't have a BNC connector listed here. Those are commonly, these days, commonly used from a networking perspective for DS3, although you can also see them used for other types of connections, especially video connections that you might run into. But from a networking perspective, we commonly associate BNC with DS3 type connections. They would be the old ones that are in the back of the room with the dust on them. LC connectors, another type of lucent connector or the fiber connection that you would run into. And last, we did do RJ11. That was our question number A. Lots of different options here. Those are all real connector types. If any one of those you can't visualize in your mind, make sure you go to Google or to your test materials, your study materials, and make sure that you're familiar with each one of those and what they look like. It's an important part of the exam. You could certainly be asked about these connectors on your Network Plus exam. Let's do a question. We'll shift gears now to do a multiple choice question. This multiple choice question asks, a network administrator is building a network to connect industrial equipment. Which of the following would best describe this network type? Would it be SAN, SAS, SD-WAN, SOHO, or SCADA? A network administrator is building a network to connect industrial equipment. Which of the following would best describe this network type? Would it be SAN, SAS, SD-WAN, SOHO, or SCADA? If you think you know the answer, go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. That's linked right there on your screen. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. We'll go through each one of those answers in just a moment. We'll give you a moment to lock it in. Now, if you are watching this on a replay, there's nothing there when you go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA. It's just a cold, quiet little room There's no way to answer those, but you can still follow along as we answer questions here as well. So definitely something you should be familiar with. This is one that would sort of qualify as both a 007 and a 008 question. So if you're studying for the old one, this is one that can help you as well. Although some of the answers are things you may not recognize. So there's a little bit of overlap between those two. But this is definitely one that might apply in both places. In the chat room, to Nami with the super chat, the $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that super chat. Tunami says, I have 2 job offers for my first role in IT, a help desk position with a local MSP. The other is a data center technician with a large MSP. My long-term goal is to be network admin. What are my insights on this? This is kind of a long answer. Maybe it'd be best if we circle back during the after show. But I tend to always go with, especially if it's your first job in IT, the one that's going to give you the most amount of information in the shortest amount of time. It's a training situation. First, either one of these is good. Get your foot in the door. That's such an important thing when dealing with jobs in our industry. Get the job first. Then once you're there, which one is really going to give you the most amount of knowledge? Which one is really going to make you learn? And really with MSP, it sounds like both of these are MSP related. I would say data center technicians are probably not as diverse a set of skills that you would need to know that a help desk would be. But both of them are going to be quite good for a first job. Either one of them is quite good. And if you're going to go into network administration, both of them are a great place to start. I don't think you can go too wrong with that particular situation. It's great you even have 2 job offers. That's phenomenal. When does that happen? So congratulations on that. If we want to circle back during the after show, that may be a good time to do it. I'd be glad to go through the nuances of that particular answer. Speaking of answers, let's see how you did with this one. The question asked, a network administrator is building a network to connect industrial equipment. Which of the following would best describe this network type? Is it SAN, SAS, SD-WAN, SOHO, or SCADA? Let's see how you answered. 55% of you say SCADA. 18% said SD-WAN, practically a tie at 17% that said SAN. And then you have 7% that said SOHO. And then 2% said SAS. We're really testing my S filter on my microphone that we have here. Lots of S's in the list of things. 56% said SCADA. If you're doing anything with industrial equipment, and those of you that work somewhere that has industrial equipment, you could be working for a power company, you could be working for a manufacturing company, and all of those different things will all go into a single type of network called a SCADA network. This is a supervisory control and data acquisition system. Sometimes you hear this referred to as an ICS or an industrial control system. This is a very particular kind of network. Very often this network is isolated from anything else in the environment because this industrial equipment tends to be pretty expensive. And if something happens to that industrial equipment, there could be problems. Imagine if you were a power company and somebody got access to the SCADA network and was able to control the systems that create power. Now, as you can imagine, that's not something that's great. And that's why IT professionals, especially network and security professionals at these types of companies, work very hard to make sure that you can't access these networks. But we have to have the networks because we need to have some way to know how's the equipment running. How are we able to get status on what's going on? How can we see what the performance of these devices might be? So you really can't get to these from the internet. You should not be able to get to these from the internet. Usually there is a very specific process you have to go through with multiple authentication types to ensure that nobody except authorized individuals would ever gain access to this particular industrial network. So if you're working on a SCADA network, that answer is E. The 57% of you got that one absolutely correct. These other answers are pretty good answers, but let's step through them. The SD-WAN is a type of wide area network that is best partnered with cloud-based systems. As you can imagine, if you're maybe working in a office today. Offices are very quickly migrating things like their email to the cloud. They're migrating a number of applications to the cloud. Well, instead of having separate wide area network connections to all of these different cloud providers, what if your wide area network could automatically recognize where your cloud traffic needs to go? There's a lot of other capabilities built into SD-WAN, but that is one of the primary reasons that people will implement an SD wide area network, is to have that flexibility with their cloud-based systems. SANs are storage area networks. Usually these are local. They're not located in the cloud. A storage area network usually is a very high-speed network that is connecting to some type of storage devices. Normally, these are large drive arrays where we're storing a lot of different types of data, usually on very, very large hard drives running RAID as the type of array. We also have two other answers. SOHO, small office, home office, refers to a type of location and not a type of connection to a network. That's not what we're looking at either. And normally in a SOHO, a small office, home office, we don't have industrial equipment at a small office. You certainly don't have a lot of industrial equipment in a home office, although my studio is a little bit different when it comes to that. But even I don't have industrial equipment in my home office. That would not be something you would commonly find. And lastly, software as a service is a cloud model. It's a cloud distribution method. Only 2% of you chose that. And although software as a service is a very popular method of having applications available in the cloud, it's not something that talks about a network that is connected to industrial equipment. So all of these types of acronyms, as you can imagine, Network Plus is just full of acronyms. All of these are listed as acronyms on your N10-008 exam. Make sure you're familiar with all of them. If any of those don't look familiar or it's something you want a little more detail on, make sure you check your exam objectives so that you can really go through them and know them before you walk into the exam. Let's do another question. Next on our list is a question that asks, a network administrator would like to be informed each time a network link is disabled. Which of the following would provide this functionality? Would it be top of rack switching, trap, LDAP, TCP flag, or a clientless VPN? A network administrator would like to be informed each time a network link is disabled. Which of the following would provide this functionality? Would it be top of rack switching, trap, LDAP, TCP flag, or clientless VPN? So if you happen to know the answer, I should put a link up on the screen. There it is. Go answer it at the link, professormesser.com/QA, and lock that in. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. All of these questions that we do today come directly from the N10-008 exam objectives. I don't know that I've specifically gone through each question and tried to translate back how that would fit into the 007, but some of these do fit the 007. We have 3 years worth of 007 study groups that you can go back and find the archive. It's on the Professor Messer website. In the categories list, I have a list category set up specifically for the 007 study groups. You can find them very, very easily and go through the years of archives that we have just for the 007. But at some point I have to make the jump somewhere to 008. And starting last month, we did that. So now all of the questions will apply to 008, and some of the questions will also apply back to 007. So either way, I think you're in pretty good shape there. Let's see how you did with this one. A question asked, a network administrator would like to be informed each time a network link is disabled. Which of the following would provide this functionality? Is it top of rack switching, trap, LDAP, TCP flag, or clientless VPN? 46% of you say that's a trap. It's a trap. 37% of you say it's a TCP flag. 11% said it's LDAP. 4% said top of rack switching, and 2% said clientless VPN. Well, the key here with this question is that we wanted to be informed when something changed on the network. We need to get some type of alarm or alert or notification or something that can tell us something in the network has changed. We want to get a message, something very obvious that will inform us that something has been modified. And one of the most common ways to do this in anything dealing with networking, the standard that everyone is using to be able to do this type of thing is the Simple Network Management Protocol, or SNMP. SNMP is a way that you could query devices to be able to see what their status might be. But in this question, we wanted to be informed proactively when something changes on that device, and SNMP has a function for that as well. It's called an SNMP trap. That's because the trap can proactively send you a message. You don't have to query it to see if something has changed. The device itself will see something has changed and will tell you what that change happens to be. You, of course, have to originally configure this in the device itself and say, hey, if anything changes with these interfaces, send me a trap. And then you just sit back and wait. And if you don't get a trap, then nothing changed. Very simple way to do it. Communicates over UDP port 162 to send that trap between the device and your management workstation. So you might want to say, if we start getting a lot of CRC errors, send me a trap. If an interface goes down, send me a trap. If the interface is reset, send me a trap. And then you can decide what to do at that point. Sometimes what you decide to do is something that's automated. Sometimes it's something that requires human intervention, but at least you get the information. At least you are informed that that particular problem occurred. So you've got some options on where you can go with those. The SNMP trap is a great way to get input and information about what is happening on your network. And if you answered B, trap, 48% of you got that one absolutely right. Generally, most SNMP devices or devices that support SNMP not only support the polling of devices via SNMP, but they also support traps as well. So your switches, your routers, your firewalls, your servers, almost every infrastructure device you happen to have and almost every operating system you happen to run all have the ability to do this. So plenty to be able to work through. There's other options on here we could have chosen. 34% of you, for example, chose TCP flag. That is a new exam objective from the N10-008. If you were to look at a protocol decode of IP of TCP inside of IP, you would see all of these specific flags inside of the protocol that tell the device you're communicating with how to handle this particular traffic. Those flags are usually a bit or a number of bits that you would turn on or turn off inside of that network packet. The TCP flag is something that you can generally only see if you're gathering a protocol decode. So this is one that can be very useful to know if you're taking your N10-008, but it does not provide any way to get informed if something changes on the network. That's not what you would use a TCP flag for, so D would not be the right answer. LDAP, the lightweight directory access protocol, is effectively a catalog or library of users, devices, and other things on the network. It is a network directory protocol, and it is something very useful if you want to be able to log into the network, provide authentication services, or simply know where different devices happen to be on the network. That's what we would use LDAP and an LDAP server for. LDAP, however, does not provide any type of information if a network link is changed, updated, disabled, or anything else. So LDAP would not be the correct answer either. 4% of you said top-of-rack switching. Top-of-rack switching is an architecture where in your data center, you have all these racks, rows and rows and rows of racks set up with equipment inside of them. And the architecture for top-of-rack switching puts a switch at, if you want to put it this way, at the top of every rack, so that everything that's in that rack gets plugged into that particular switch, and then that switch connects to larger switches, which then usually connect to core switches. I have designs and diagrams of this in my N10-008 course, so if my arm doing this doesn't explain it well enough, don't worry, I've got pictures and diagrams and an entire explanation of that architecture in my videos. We also have 2% that said clientless VPN. That's a real thing. If you've ever installed VPN software onto your system, you know it's not the easiest thing in the world, and then you have to maintain and update that software. But what if you were able to connect to a website and have VPN functionality through your browser? That's a functionality built into HTML5 and what we call clientless VPN, because you get all the same functionality of a VPN, but you don't have to install anything on your system. It just works. A fantastic set of technologies built into HTML5, but doesn't provide us with any information if a link happens to be disabled. So clientless VPN would not be the correct answer here either. The only one that really fits this requirement is answer B, an SNMP trap, and 49% of you chose that one. This is, as you can see, a quite a mix of different topics that you would run into on this exam. For the N10-008, if you just look at my course, it's 93 videos in length. That's a lot of videos if you were to watch all of them, and over 14 hours of content, even bigger than our N10-007 course. It got much bigger on the N10-008. And look at all the different topics that you could cover: subnetting, protocols, cabling, fiber, encryption, topologies, SNMP traps, and everything else that might be in there. There's a lot that you can go through. What I've done is taken all of that information and put it into a set of course notes. So if you're somebody who is wanting to get everything in my videos already in one single place, you want to know about TCP flags? There they are. You want to understand more about data encapsulation and decapsulation? There it is. You want to know more about the OSI model? The charts are right here in my course notes. If it's in my videos, it's in these course notes. I've designed it to have all the same graphics, all the same charts, all the same text. It is an extensive set of notes. And if we go all the way to the end, how many pages is this? 76 pages of course notes. An extensive set of notes, our biggest Network Plus course notes that we've ever done. So if you wanted to get your hands on that, it's a great study guide. It doesn't replace the videos. It doesn't replace your book. But at the end, if you want something that can really help you study the details of what you'll be asked on the exam, this is a great option. Plus, it's a great way to support the website. Find out more about it on our website, professormesser.com/NPCN for Network Plus course notes. They're all there. If you order the digital version, you can download it immediately. If you order the physical edition, I'll ship you out a book, a physical book. I don't have it with me here. I should grab it next time. But you also get the digital version for free. So while you're waiting on this to be shipped for you, you can still download the current version and you're good to go. So either way, it's a great way to learn more about the Network Plus exam, and another great way to help us here at ProfessorMesser.com as well. ProfessorMesser.com/NPCN. Let's do another question. Let's keep this going. I've got another question for you that asks, a user connecting to the VPN receives a message on the screen with instructions for downloading the corporate antivirus utility. Which of the following is the most likely reason for this issue? Is it an invalid certificate, wireless interference, an incorrect VLAN, a failed posture assessment, or a wrong date and time? A user connecting to the VPN receives a message on the screen with instructions for downloading the corporate antivirus utility. Which of the following is the most likely reason for this issue? Is it invalid certificate, wireless interference, incorrect VLAN, failed posture assessment, or wrong date and time? If you think you know the answer, go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA, lock in your answer. As always, please, no answers in the chat room, no hints in the chat room. We're going to see how we do with knowing what this one is. This is, I think, one of those questions that I want to say this is a 7 and 8 question, but I might be getting this confused with the 008 and with going back to Security Plus, because there's a little bit of overlap with these. And this one could be a security question. It could be a networking question. Is there overlap with A+ on this one? I don't think so. I think this is definitely Network Plus for sure. To be able to figure these out, make sure you lock in your answer. Go to ProfessorMesser.com/QA and lock in the answer. See how you do with this one. If you've ever connected, VPN seems to be a lot of what we're doing today, but if you've ever connected to a corporate VPN and this has happened to you, maybe you'll be more familiar with this particular set of things that could be the issue. Invalid certificate, wireless interference, incorrect VLAN, failed posture assessment, wrong date and time. They all sound like bad things. None of these sound like a good thing. So, but one of these is definitely what we're looking for. Let's see how you do to be able to make that. So for those of you that are watching, I see a number of you are watching maybe on your phone, you're watching on your desktop. Of course, you've always got that cog wheel at the bottom. If you want to change the resolution, make the screen look a little better, make it a little more crisp. I'm sending you information out at HD at 1080p. So you should be able to get a crystal clear, beautiful signal and screen on your device. Sometimes YouTube is very good at downgrading the picture if you're on a mobile device and you have to manually tell it, no, I don't want 300 or 160p. I want 720p. I want 1080p. You'll have all those options available under the cog wheel of that. Here's a little tip for you. You can even take that elsewhere and being able to make that happen. This is one that might be useful and important. Let's see how you did with this one. The question asked, a user connecting to the VPN receives a message on the screen with instructions for downloading the corporate antivirus utility. Which of the following is the most likely reason for this issue? Is it an invalid certificate, wireless interference, incorrect VLAN, failed posture assessment, or the wrong date and time? Now, let's see how you answered. Bring up your answers. 52% of you, just over half, say a failed posture assessment. But 31% of you say it's an invalid certificate. 7% said incorrect VLAN. 7% also said the wrong date and time. And then 3% said wireless interference. So here we need to kind of look at the situation we're in. We're connecting to the VPN. And instead of connecting to our corporate network, we get this message that says, oh, you need to download the antivirus utility. Well, why would it prompt us to download the corporate antivirus utility? There must be some reason or something that dictates from the corporate side that you must use the corporate antivirus utility if you're connecting to this VPN. So it runs through what's called a posture assessment before it lets you into the network. This posture assessment checks, it first assesses your machine to see what your security posture happens to be. Security posture would be, how secure is this system? What is running on the system that makes it more or less secure than it should be? And it will examine, is antivirus running on the system? Is the firewall enabled on the system? Is it updated to the latest version of patches from Microsoft or from Apple? Does it happen to have a particular set of files or utilities that we insist everyone run on their systems before they're able to gain access to our internal network? And it goes through all of those questions, those things that have been pre-programmed into the VPN to check your system. And if any of those fails, then you have failed the posture assessment. Now, when that happens, it says, well, you don't have the right antivirus running, so we're not going to let you into the main corporate network. You could potentially infect other systems. We want you to run something that we know is safe. So instead of just completely locking you out, we're going to take your system and quarantine it, maybe put it on a separate quarantine VLAN. We'll present messages on the screen that say, we're not going to let you in, but only because you're not running the right version of antivirus. Here's the antivirus you should install. Here's a link to it. You can click that link. You can download it. You can install it in your system, and then click this button to try the posture assessment again. And that's what you do. You install it. You click the button, and it will either tell you you have now passed the posture assessment, or it will say, we're not quite done yet because you don't have the latest Microsoft patches. So there may be multiple things that you have to do to finally gain access to the network, but failing the posture assessment is the most common issue that you would run into, where you're receiving a message on the screen asking you to download or update one of the security devices. So if you answered D, failed posture assessment, 54% of you answered that one. That's the one that is the correct answer. Now, this is I would say this type of behavior is not necessarily network access control or NAC. It is NAC light or like. It is something that's commonly associated with network access control, but having a posture assessment and then controlling access to the network and defining someone as being on a particular VLAN don't necessarily have to be the same thing. Those could be two separate systems. You might be running one and not the other. They could be exclusive to each other. So you might have a firewall or a VPN concentrator that does posture assessments, but that's kind of where it stops with the access control functionality. So 802.1x or network access control is something that is not necessarily directly associated or required when you're doing something like a posture assessment. 30% of you said an invalid certificate. That's a large number of folks. Whenever you're connecting to a website and you receive a message on the screen that there's some type of problem with the certificate, and it usually says, do you want to look at the certificate? Do you want to click this button and not connect to this site? Or you could, in some cases, click a button to continue to this site, even though this certificate happens to have a problem. If you're someone like me who is interested in knowing why this message is appearing, you can drill down into the certificate and see, oh, the certificate is expired. Or I'm visiting a particular URL, a particular fully qualified domain name, and the fully qualified domain name of the certificate doesn't match this domain name. That's another good reason for a certificate to fail. But a certificate failing would not then present you with instructions for downloading a corporate antivirus utility. If you just randomly get a message that says download this antivirus utility, that's probably a scam. That's probably malware. If you're connecting to a VPN in your corporate network and you receive a message from that corporate device, and this is a well-documented process within your organization, then it's probably legitimate. But if you just randomly get something on your screen that says, I got a certificate error, it's not going to have any of these download a corporate antivirus utility messages. It's only going to be something that is telling you that the certificate is invalid for one of these different reasons. And in some cases, you can even continue through with it. You can say, I accept that the certificate isn't valid. We'll just keep it going. So it would not be in this case the corporate antivirus utility message. An invalid certificate would not cause that particular set of functions to occur. We have 7% of you saying incorrect VLAN or wrong date and time. Incorrect VLAN would be once you gained access to the network, and usually you're not able to communicate outside of your local subnet if you run an incorrect VLAN. That wasn't the symptom we were seeing. We were seeing a message on the screen requiring us to download and install the corporate antivirus utility. Wrong date and time is also not something that would prompt us to download the corporate antivirus utility. Although if you were in Windows and trying to do Kerberos authentication, you have to be at least by default 5 minutes within the correct date and time of everything else that's on the network. So wrong date and time might cause login issues, but it would not present a message on the screen that would require you to download antivirus. And lastly, wireless interference. Only 2% of you chose that one, but obviously wireless interference would prevent us from gaining access to the network at all. We wouldn't get a login. We wouldn't get a prompt. We wouldn't have a message telling us to download antivirus because we were never able to connect to those devices. So in this case, the only one that really makes sense or would make the most sense, because that was the question, which of the following is the most likely reason for this issue, is indeed the 55% of you that showed D, failed posture assessment. That is the correct answer. Well done. Now, if you're watching this for continuing education unit credit and you would like to receive an email from me that certifies that you were here watching this live stream and you would like to receive a webinar category CEU, then you must follow these instructions. First, go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link. In the message that or the form that pops up, put your name, your email address. In the subject line, please put December 2021 Network Plus. And then in the body of the message on a line by itself, put the words posture assessment. Posture assessment is the super secret code word of the month. And then if you would like to put anything else in that message underneath, you're more than welcome to. I read through every single one of these. Although I get a large number of these, I'm not able to respond back to them all. I will tell you that I do love reading them, and I do read through every single one of them. So I appreciate those of you that have stuck those messages in there and have received nothing back from me other than the CEU email, but I did read through that, and I sure appreciate it. Thank you for sending those. So for those of you, again, go to the top or the bottom of the Professor Messer website, click the Contact Us link, put your name, your email address in the subject line, put December 2021 Network Plus, and somewhere or on a line by itself in the body of that message, generally at the top, put the super secret code words, posture assessment, and send it to me. I would love to receive that. It takes me about a week to turn these around, although if you're still waiting on the ones from last week, haven't gotten those out yet. I'll do that tonight. I'll get all of these out. So if you send it today, you could possibly get the response from me this evening. So this is a quick way to do it. So another one of these things that if you're collecting CEUs to renew your certification, this might help you along the way. We got time for another question. Let's fit one in while we are here. This next question on our list asks, construction work in the area has severed a fiber connection between buildings. Which of the following should be used to reconnect this network? Would it be a punch-down tool, a fusion splicer, an OTDR, a tone generator, or a port mirror? Construction work in the area has severed a fiber connection between buildings. Which of the following should be used to reconnect this network? Would it be a punch-down tool, a fusion splicer, OTDR, tone generator, or port mirror? If you think you know the answer, go to professormesser.com/QA. Lock in your answer. Please no answers in the chat room. Please no hints in the chat room. This is one, I think this is definitely a 008 question, isn't it? Maybe it isn't. Some of these look familiar to me. We'll see how you do. Lock in your answer by going to professormesser.com/QA. That's your link that's right there on the screen. And lock in that answer. I happen to know what it is. Maybe some of you have done this if you've ever worked through here. This is one whenever you get to the case where you're trying to work through challenges with breaking out what might be on the exam and not on the exam. You certainly should be in a situation where the exam objectives are the most important thing. So make sure you're very, very, very familiar with those exam objectives. They can help you. Each one of these answers are real answers. They all came from the exam objectives. So if any of these answers look unusual, they don't look like something you remember, make a note of that. Make sure you go back to the exam objectives. And you can, of course, reference those. They might appear in your exam, even though we didn't cover them in this study group. We just listed them out. It may not have been a correct answer here, but it might be a correct answer on your exam. Make sure you're familiar with those. Lock in those answers. Let's see how you did. Not as many people know this one. That's how I can really tell it's an N10-008 because I can see this number and how quickly it increases as you're locking in your answers. And when it goes slower, I know this might be a newer one for most people. Let's see how you did with this one. Construction work in the area has severed a fiber connection between buildings. Which of the following should be used to reconnect this network? Would it be a punch-down tool, a fusion splicer, an OTDR, a tone generator, or a port mirror? Let's see the results. 73% of you have gone with the super sci-fi fusion splicer answer. But is that the right one? We'll find out in a moment because 18% of you said you should use an OTDR for that. 2% said punch down, 3% said tone generator, 4% said port mirror. It's effectively a three-way tie for third, with 73% of you choosing fusion splicer. Then you're probably leaning the right direction. This is a fusion splicer. If you ever need to take a run of fiber and you need to connect those two fibers together, this is the device that you would use. It looks pretty complicated, and it is one that does require a bit of training for you to operate correctly. It is going down really to the microscopic level to be able to align those fibers and to seal them together with each other. It is one that does an excellent job. And once you make the fusion splice in these two sections of fiber, it effectively is just as functional and just as strong as the original fiber. It is a permanent connection. So very, very useful tool. you are effectively heating this fiber to connect it all together. But as you can tell, you're going to need some training to get that. Once you get used to doing it, it's much easier. But the Fusion Splicer is an important thing to have if you're someone who needs to fix fiber that may have been severed. This is what you're going to have to use to be able to put those two back together again. And once you get it back together, your network will be back up and running. It is indeed Fusion Splicer. 73% of you got that one absolutely correct. 18% of you said an optical time domain reflectometer, OTDR. And although an OTDR can tell you information about what's on this particular link, it can, for example, an optical version of a TDR can tell you that there is a break in the fiber that happens to be 50 meters down the line. It will tell exactly how far down that fiber the problems happen to be. But our question was not about identifying where the break happened to be. We already knew there was a break. We already knew that the guy in the construction equipment already broke the fiber. What we need to know is, how can we reconnect the network? Well, we could run new fiber, but do you have a couple kilometers of fiber sitting around you can do that with? Wouldn't it be easier if you could just fusion splice them together? That's what you would use. So the OTDR won't connect fiber together. It will simply tell you what you already knew in this case. Hey, your fiber broke. There's no link. It broke 50 meters that way. So grab your Fusion Splicer, go 50 meters that way, and stick them back together again. That's the real answer to this one, and make that happen. OTDRs are incredibly, I agree, they're incredibly useful to have. They're kind of expensive, but if you're doing anything with fiber on your network and you want to verify, once you make the Fusion Splice, you want to verify the light is going through that connection properly and the maximum amount of light is now traversing that fiber run. OTDR would be a great way to test your splice. So you may need both of these eventually to be able to reconnect, but the one that does the actual reconnection is the Fusion Splicer. 4% said port mirror. If you've ever plugged in a protocol analyzer into a switch and you wanted to redirect traffic from one interface to the interface of the protocol analyzer, you would use a port mirror function. If you're on a Cisco device, their port mirror is called a SPAN, a switched port analyzer, which isn't really what it is. It's really redirecting the traffic. May not even be an analyzer at the end of it, but that's what most people will use that for. Tone generators are used on copper networks to be able to find a long run of copper fiber, copper link, especially one that would be in a ceiling, in a wall. It's on the other side of the building. You would put a tone generator on one end, and then you would go the other end with an inductive probe to try to find out where the other end of that cable happens to be. That would be when you would use a tone generator. And a punch-down tool is what you would use to connect copper wires into a punch-down block. It is not what you would use to reconnect fiber. It is only used for copper connections. In this case, the best and only answer of what you would use is be a Fusion Splicer, and 74% of you got that one absolutely right. Well, as we mentioned earlier in this particular live stream, we have a sponsor this month. It's Uncle Phil's Fudge. Some of you that were here last month heard me talking about Uncle Phil. Uncle Phil has been making fudge for years, and if that fine figure of a man, Uncle Phil, looks familiar, that's because Uncle Phil is my little brother. So they're full disclosure, he is a sponsor, but I can tell you from years and years and years of work of him doing this that I have enjoyed his fudge this entire time. And I've watched his business grow, and I've watched him create new types of fudge. And it's remarkable in Florida, where we are located, you used to not be able to send people fudge over the internet or outside. You just had to deliver it to them personally. You couldn't ship fudge anywhere. But now they've changed that. And now Uncle Phil's able to take all these flavors that he's created through the years. And he is now, I'll go to this menu here and give you a feel for this. And now you can order this and get it delivered exactly where it needs to go. So look at these flavors. This is not what you would normally find with fudge. We love when Uncle Phil comes for the holidays, because I get some Cuban espresso fudge, I get the key lime fudge, I get the Mexican chocolate fudge. It's remarkable. And then, of course, if you're a traditionalist, you just want dark chocolate, you just want milk chocolate peanut butter or a milk chocolate fudge. He's got those as well. What I find interesting is he had a lot of people talking to him about fudge for people who are vegan, especially if you have members of your family that are vegan and you're just not sure, what can I buy them for Christmas? What treats can I get for them? What's something that they could be able to use? He has been working for years on flavors that are dairy-free and vegan. So cookies and cream, Cuban espresso, dark chocolate, key lime, and mint chocolate chip are his vegan flavors. You can see they're marked there on his website. That's not something you find everywhere, and they're so good. I don't know how he does it. He is currently shipping to Canada and the U.S. only, unfortunately, for those of you asking about Europe. I'm trying to convince him to send those over to Europe as well. But for you, you've got a discount as well. If this is something you're interested in, go find that traditional fudge. 5 for 20 is the coupon code. If you're getting the plant-based fudge, it's 4 for 24, and you get a little bit of a discount off what's on the website. It's Uncle Phil's Fudge at unclephilsfudge.com. And for those of you asking, not only does Uncle Phil have hair, he has a full head of hair, unlike his older brother. So this is one of those, trust me, it comes up at the holidays too. unclephilsfudge.com. It is so, he talks about it being so good. Make sure you follow him on Instagram, where he puts in pictures of him making this fudge, videos of him doing this. It's amazing. And I can tell you personally, after someone who has been testing and working through these different flavors for years, it really is amazing fudge that he has created. It's a great business he's got going, unclephilsfudge.com. Well, so you've noticed as we've gone through these questions today, all of the topics that you saw came directly from the CompTIA exam objectives. Make sure you have these objectives. They tell you everything you need to know about what could be asked of you on the exam. They are extensive. They are a great checklist. They are free. Go to professormesser.com/objectives. Make sure you get your hands on these. They just give them out. They're just something you can download, and they are a great checklist. This could be the make or break between you passing this exam or not. So make sure you download these and use them extensively. They are very, very valuable. They're a great thing to have. We do one of these study groups every month. We got another Network Plus study group currently scheduled for January the 13th. I've got A Plus on the 5th and the 7th, Network Plus on the 13th, and Security Plus on the 20th of January. We do some of these all the time. These dates can change sometimes. Who knows what's going on in my life? The set of chaos that follows me around could sometimes cause me to change the dates on these, which is what we happen to have today, for example. So make sure you go to professormesser.com/calendar. You know exactly when that happens to be. I have all of my dates, and everything is always updated on that calendar instantly. Well, although the Q&A on my side is done, we shift this around. I want to get Q&A from you. So go to professormesser.com, and we will either, and I'll also take questions from the chat room, either on my website on the live link or from the YouTube link. If you're on YouTube now or you're seeing a chat room, and that means that you're on the YouTube chat. That's where I'll take that from. Don't forget about the Success Bundle, professormesser.com/netsuccess. We've got our discount vouchers, so never pay full price for your exam. Go to professormesser.com/vouchers. Get your discounted vouchers right now. And of course, we've always got places for you to watch all of our videos, our Q&A, and much more at professormesser.com/Twitter, /YouTube, /Instagram. Just put in professormesser.com/ wherever you would like to find me, and you will see that it is there. Thank you for joining us in this first hour. Stick around for the after show, and we'll see you next time on the Network Plus Study Group. Well, I now am just dying for fudge. I don't know what happened there. How did that happen? Well, of course I am. Thank you for being here in this first hour. I'm going to take some questions from the chat room. I'm sort of shifting gears over to seeing what's happening with the chat. So if you are on YouTube, it is the chat that's on YouTube. If you're on ProfessorMesser.com/live, it is the chat on ProfessorMesser.com/live. Let me get my face out of the way. So I'm looking at the chat right now. So any questions you have about IT, about career, about networking, about anything relating to anything, really, I'll answer almost anything. You can put it in there, and I'll be more than happy to tell you more about what I know with those particular topics. Before we do that, let me move over my lower third so you know exactly where these questions will be coming from. There it is. That might get you into those connections. It's something that can help you to be able to have that there. The question earlier was talking about which job do I take? And the question was specific to, here's a job in a corporate help desk. Here's a job in a data center. So which one makes sense? Now, the advantage here is that you now have the ability to, you've got a job. Either way, you're in. The hardest part about IT is just getting in the door. Hardest part about any particular area of work is just getting in the door. So that's the most important thing. So let's put that aside for the moment. The second thing is that this is not going to be a job that's going to be your IT job the rest of your career. This is your IT job for the next 9 months to a year, probably. Help desk is not these type of positions where people tend to sit there for years and years and years and years and years. Most folks going through a help desk are getting there, learning the ropes, understanding the processes for the organization that they're in, learning more about what applications people use, learning more about who they can talk to, and then moving out of that role into desktop administration, server administration, networking, security, databases, email, cloud, whatever it happens to be. There's so many different directions to go in IT. So that's why I tell you, find the one that you like the most. Find the one that excites you the most. If you really like being in the data center, I love data center tours. When I worked as a systems engineer, we would normally walk in, we go into a conference room and we talk about firewalls and security and what we're seeing and what they're using and things that might help. And then at the end of the meeting, they'd say, hey, do you want to see the data center? And I would guess, yes, I do. That's the funnest part of my job. Let's go look at the gear. Let's go see what's in there. And what you've got. Plus, every data center is a little bit different. Every data center has its own personality. Every organization has a different set of things that they do in the data center. And so I love it when we go grab the data center, go grab the key, we go in the data center, we get access to the data center, we sign in, and they just take us around and show us. Okay, over here's the web server. Over here is our data library. Here's the NAS. Here's the SAN network. Here's this. Here's that. And it's always interesting to see what's there. So I must have been in my world, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of data centers. And they're all so interesting every single time. So maybe data center was the right job. Although on a help desk with an MSP, you're going to be answering questions about everything that MSP offers. So you could be on one call talking about email, the next call talking about security, the next call talking about networking, the next call talking about the cloud. So it's another great place to learn. Now, you're not going to learn everything you need to learn for everything that you're going to have throughout your IT career. You're never going to be in that situation. One thing about IT is that you never stop learning. It is a constant learning process. Even in the last position I had working for a third-party company as a cybersecurity systems engineer, I was at kind of the pinnacle of my career of systems engineering, part of my career. There were still things I was constantly having to learn. So this is where you should be. If you're ever in an IT position, and it's very comfortable for you, and you walk in the morning and you can answer all the questions, and then you go home at night and everything is running exactly the way you would expect, and you know what's going on, you know what's happening behind the scenes, then you're probably in the wrong job. If you're not in a position where you're constantly being challenged, where you're constantly having to learn, then you're probably in the wrong job. You need to be in a job where you're not the smartest person in the room. If you look around and you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong place. But this is the great part about IT, is that when you level up, when you move to that job where you're not the smartest one in the room, it commonly comes with an increase in pay. That's the hope. That's the goal, is that when you start moving up, you get to a point where you know everything you need to know for this role. Now we can use that to propel ourselves into a higher level with different topics, but we can also get more of a salary from that as well. So I think that is another part of learning sort of when to be in a role and when not to be in a role. I realized that wasn't your question originally. It was really about which one of these do I choose? And I think my answer is find the one you like the most. Because I would like to go to work every day doing something I like to do. And so that's why I say, do you like data centers? That's where I would be. I'd probably choose the data center between both of those. But one of my first jobs was at a corporate help desk. And I learned amazing amounts of things at that corporate help desk, things that I still use today. I started learning protocols, and I mean the frames on the network protocols when I was in that corporate help desk. It's really what piqued my interest into networking was the help desk. So the help desk, I went from help desk to more of a server administration. Help desk was sort of a workstation administration, but I really went from help desk to workstation admin to server admin to ultimately networking. And I just love the networking side of things. Ultimately, it was the network knowledge that was able to propel me into cybersecurity. So that's the process. Everybody has a different path. Everybody has a different process. Everybody has a different set of things that excite them, that are interesting, and your interests will change through the years. So what you do today may be very different than what you're interested in doing years from now. So don't worry too much about the long term. People always ask in an interview, and I always laugh at the question, which was, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, who knows? This industry is crazy. This could be a completely different place in 5 years. How in the world am I supposed to figure that out? So my answer is always hanging on and trying to learn as much as I can, because it is constantly moving underneath our feet. So 5 years from now, I'll be doing what I'm doing right now, trying to learn as quickly as I can, trying to keep up with the industry and all of the changes, and trying to find the niche where I can really make a difference in an organization or make a difference in my career. Both of those are really important. So it's a balancing act, right? To figure out those details. So that's my answer from earlier about which one do I go with. Find the one that makes you the most interested. Find the one that's going to challenge you the most. Go with that one. You really can't go wrong. Or if there's people I know, the answer would be, which one pays the most? That's the one you go with. Both are valid arguments. Both have a positive and minus to them. There are advantages and disadvantages. Find the one that makes sense for you. From the chat room, I'll answer a quick one, then we'll go back to one where somebody was asking. The quick one is, do I plan on having a Cloud Plus training course? First, this implies that I plan things, which I appreciate that. Thank you. Secondly, I don't know that Cloud Plus is at the top of the list of things that I would do first, but this list is constantly changing. What is at the top of this list keeps being moved in and out every day, it seems. I have these conversations constantly with Mrs. Professor Messer, which is, what is our next course going to be? And we say, what about this? What about that? What about this one? What about that one? And we go back and forth on the things that are, well, we could do this or we could do this. Here are the advantages and disadvantages. And then we talk for an hour about what we would or would not do with that particular course. So there's a lot of time spent on this question. Cloud Plus probably does not have the core group of people that need it, that would drive me towards creating it. But it's such a valuable cloud training of any kind is valuable. And I tell you all the time, go get some cloud training, go get some AWS training, go get some training over at the Azure side, go get the Cloud Plus. These are things employers are looking for. Now, in your particular neck of the woods, if employers are not looking for this, well, then obviously don't worry about getting those certifications. But from our perspective, right now, we are finishing up our updated A+ course. And then after that is kind of a 2-year gap between the next time I would need to update a CompTIA exam. All right, well, now's a perfect time to do a new course. What's it going to be? I don't have an answer for you yet. Check back in a few months once I finished A+, and I'll be a little closer to telling you what that happens to be. I'm just not sure yet. But it's probably not going to be Cloud Plus. Probably not. Just so you know. Maybe a different kind of cloud training. Could it be Azure? Could it be AWS? Could it be some other cloud-based training? Maybe. I don't know. I really do not know right now. We will know eventually, though. So we'll figure it out. I think one of the challenges I have is just being able to piece together what the priorities are. And I think that's the important part of this, is really finding the one that's the best balance for you, that would make the biggest effect on the people that are watching. A super chat in Czech. I guess it's not dollars, is it? Is it Karuna? Am I saying that right? 100 of them. The question for Liberty in the chat room. Thank you, Prof. Got a job as an L1 Network Security Analyst using my Security Plus video notes. Congratulations on that job. It's very difficult to find an entry-level security job here in the United States. So finding any entry-level security is a cause for celebration. The question from Liberty asks, is it a good start in cybersecurity? And what certs should I take to rise up? Well, that's a good question. One of the things they always tell you is never say that's a good question. So I apologize for saying that, but it's a good question. This is one where security in itself has some certifications that are understood by the industry to be very wanted. But generally, when you get into security, specifically IT security, what you will find is that we tend to start narrowing our focus into specific technologies. For example, if you start working at an entry level, an L1 Network Security Analyst, and you're doing, or maybe you're starting work in the United States, you might find a job working in a SOC, a Security Operations Center. Those are good entry-level security jobs. So when you get there, you may find that they use a particular kind of next-generation firewall. And they may say, well, to move up in our organization, you need to get Palo Alto Networks certified. Okay, that's a good choice. I need to go get Palo Alto Networks certified so that I can become more familiar with the Palo Alto Networks firewall they use here. Or maybe they use multiple vendors of firewalls, so you may have to get a Checkpoint certification, a Palo Alto Networks certification, and then maybe something from Cisco. These are common that you would find. I think in the industry, things with security tend to stay the same with certifications. A good example of a certification that tends to be an industry standard is from ISC Squared. It is the CISSP. The CISSP is I don't want to call it sort of the gold standard for security, but it's certainly a popular certification for people to have and being able to use those. So the CISSP has a number of things going for it. One is that it is so wanted by employers. It also is a very comprehensive, very broad exam, and people that have their CISSP tend to be people that have been in the industry a very long time and are very familiar with these security technologies. So if I had to go outside the scope of a manufacturer certification like Palo Alto Networks or Checkpoint or some of the others, I think CISSP is another good choice. Another place you may want to focus are on some that are very much broader. Cisco has some security certifications. Microsoft has some that are sort of cloud-based security technologies that are important to know. So those types of certifications and training can be very valuable to you as a technician, but are also something that employers are often looking for if you need to move into other parts of the security. You know, other offerings from CompTIA, like the CASP, the CISA Plus, are also very good security certifications. Not quite at the same level as the CISSP, certainly not yet anyway. It really is more about what employers are looking for. If you find that a lot of employers in your area are specifically looking for CISA or Pen Test Plus or CASP or any of the CompTIA certifications, those would be good ones to go with. So I think those would be excellent ones to look into. And the fact that you even got the L1 Network Security Analyst is fantastic. Keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, learn as much as you can in that role. You will be able to use this knowledge for the rest of your IT career. This will be valuable to you, not only for your skills, but it could be potentially financially valuable as well. So congratulations on that, Liberty. And thank you for the super chat as well. From Adam in the chat room, could I quantify the difference between Security Plus 501 and Security Plus 601? Well, you have come to the right place when it comes to quantification, because the first thing I always do is I pour through all of the exam objectives. I make a list of the exam objectives, and I list out and count every single one of them that has changed between the different versions. So if I was to look at, for example, I'll just show you. Here's what I do. So here is the 501 objective numbers put next to the 601 objectives. And then you can see if you have the 601 objectives, these are the objectives. I just put everything into a spreadsheet so I can track it. But every place that's green are objectives that effectively are the same between the 501 and the 601. Anything that's yellow that says new, well, that's new in the 601. There is no 501 that you can compare to that. So as I scroll through this, you can see that there's quite a bit that's new. Almost every page is just full of new. Some of these have been removed. So they were changed in different versions. There were only like 2 or 3, and they were actually covered in different parts of the exam. They were just redundant. But look at all the new. So let's talk numbers. You wanted a quantification of these two. I'm going to scroll all the way down. So in the 601, the total number of objectives in the 601 is 1,038 objectives. For those of you that have never taken an exam before in CompTIA, that's a large number of objectives. Just so you're familiar, in the 501, there were 778 objectives, which means that in the new version, it's 133% the size. It's a third larger. That is a big exam. This is Security Plus 601 was much bigger than the 501. And it's even worse than that, if I may, because the number of new objectives in the 601 that are not found in the 501 is 529 objectives. This means that 50% of the exam is brand new. So not only is it a third larger, half of the content you've never seen before if you've been studying the 501. That is an extensive difference. It's bigger, and there's a lot that's changed. Half of the exam is brand new. That is pretty big. So if you're wondering about bringing yourself up to speed, if you've been studying for the 501 materials, unfortunately, you're nowhere close to being ready. These aren't even close to being the same exams. It's like they started over. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend, if you've been studying from 501 materials, to throw those materials out or set them to the side. Get 601 materials. Make sure your books, your videos, and everything you have says SY0601 if you're planning to take the 601 exam. So very important. So that's why I always tell you some of these exams are dramatically different, and 601 was even more dramatic. So don't study from 501 and go in to take the 601 exam. You're not going to do very well on that exam. Make sure it's 601 content. Also in the chat room, do you have a roadmap to keep posted for potential future content? Brother, this changes every day in my head. So no, I don't have a roadmap. I have a very basic map or set of projects that I know a certain project that I'm on is going to take a certain amount of time, just so I know I expect this one to be done by this month. Certainly not down to a date, and most of the time it's incredibly incorrect anyway. It's my best guess, and very often my best guess with these things is completely wrong. Take, for example, the 601. I thought it'd be done with that certification. A new version. What could be changed? I'll get this one done in 3 months. We'll roll it out. We'll be done. 6 months later, we're finally finishing this very new exam. So sometimes we just never know. And I don't have a roadmap. It really does change every day. I'm really moving around constantly trying to figure out the best way to do this. So yeah, that is something that's important. Now in the chat room, since I just did this with Security Plus, Israel asks, now did you do the same thing with Network Plus? Is there a list of objectives and a comparison of those objectives to 007? Israel, come on now. Of course there is. I do nothing if not crunch through numbers. So here's the Network Plus. Here's my 007 column. Here's the 008 exam objectives. And all of them listed out in the videos they're in. Let's look at the numbers. Scroll the bottom. Scroll. In the bottom, we have 588 objectives in the N10-008. So you just saw in the Security Plus, there were over 1,000 objectives. Network Plus, the current version, 588. What a difference, right, between those two. The 007 had 499 objectives, so only 89 new or 89 additional objectives to know in those two. Effectively the same size, just a little bit bigger, not by much. And then we've got in the 008, if you look at the number of news that are in my spreadsheet, I count a total of 235 of them are new, which means 40% of the Network Plus is one that is new. So still a significant number. It's not half, thankfully, and the exam is not expanded out 30% in size, although 89, it's close to 15 to 20% in size larger, isn't it? That's pretty big. So that's one where still a lot has changed. So you saw today as we went through this, there was a lot of these topics that are things maybe you hadn't seen before, and that's because 40% of the objectives on this exam are objectives that you have not seen before. So that is where that comes from. That spreadsheet is not available to download. It contains some proprietary information that I'm not available to make public, but all of that is available if you compare the two objectives to each other. I think if I have time here, I would love to be able to create a spreadsheet, or at least if you go to my objectives link, I have something similar to this with previous versions of the exam at professormesser.com/objectives. I think I did one for the previous version. Yeah, I did one that was the N10-007 compared to the 006. So I need to kind of do the same thing where it just highlights on the screen what the differences are. And so you can see where the new things are because they've just got a highlight next to them. So I really should get some of my staff to work. I'll get my staff on it to work through some of those things to have that available. So there's quite a bit. So every time there's a new version of the exam, I do this as well. I go through every single one of these. So for example, there's a new A+. So I go through the A+ and go do all of those objectives. What's new? What's different? And once that exam is released, that will be another interesting one. We'll step through the spreadsheet and we'll see if we can figure out what's new, what's different, what has changed with these. I do it every single time because otherwise you wouldn't know. Otherwise it's kind of a guess. And every time I've tried to guess without actually running the numbers, I've been wrong. So of course, I do step through all of these and try to get the most knowledge I can about this, because if I know that an exam is 40% of it's brand new, I'm going to need to really work on that 40%. So That's it. Well, my study material have the 008. It's all done. It's all finished. It's on the website. All of my Network Plus study material is complete. All my videos have been published. My course notes are available. My success bundles are available. Downloadable versions of the videos, downloadable versions of the audio. All of those are available on the website. Yeah. So I've finished my Network Plus course. It is done. It's in the can. Right now, I'm busy writing new content for A+. So that's what I do all day, every day right now. All day, all night is working A+ content in this room. I never leave. I just sit here when this turns off, and I just keep sitting here. That's not entirely true. In fact, I have things to do right after this, but then I come back and I make more content. That's what this desk is for, is building more of these videos for you. So can you still take the 007? Absolutely. I think the 007 final date, I haven't seen that. I saw this somewhere, and I think it may have been internal within CompTIA. It's June, but I think it's the last day of June. I think it's June 30th. Don't hold me to that, but I think that's right. The last day you can take the 007 is June 30th. That is probably the correct date, but they've said June 2022. And from us right now here in December, that's plenty of time. I think on average, it probably takes about 3 months, 2 to 3 months for most people to take this. I don't think it's June 22nd. Technically, they've not given a date. It's just been June. At least not yet anyway. We should probably check the CompTIA website to see what they have finally put in for the Network Plus certification. If I can click that on my side, let's see if they've got a date in here yet. They are still only showing June 2022 on their website. So for the N10-007, all we know is June. I think internally I saw June 30th. Just don't hold me to that, because they haven't published that as an actual date. It might be June 1st. We don't know. We'll find out as we get closer to that day. 501, the last date to take the exam was it July? 501 was retired a number of months ago. So nope, no 501 available. At least in English-speaking countries, the 501 is not available. I think for the folks that are in non-English-speaking countries, I think you still have until the end of the year. What's that final date on Security Plus? Let's find out. We'll find out together. If we scroll through the 501 Q1, so the English-speaking retired on July 31st. All other languages retire in the first quarter, January, February, or March of 2022. Apparently, they haven't given a specific date on that either. So if you are Japanese, Portuguese, and simplified Chinese, if that's the ones you're looking towards, you've got until the first quarter of 2022. Otherwise, it's already gone. You already missed it. 601 is the Security Plus version for you. So you have to keep juggling this, right? So which one do you take? For Network Plus, you can take 007 right now. You could take 008 right now. Which one do you take? And I would say right now, you've got a choice. You can decide. You know, if you go out to my website, you can decide 007 or 008. And if this was 3 months ago, I would have told you, take the 007. There's so many more materials available. And I would say even today, there probably still is more 007 books and videos available than 008. But that has changed quite a bit in the last month. I think it's also going to change quite a bit in the next 3 months. So you'll see a lot more Network Plus books available on Amazon. All the CompTIA Network Plus content is available. For example, if you go to the Professor Messer website and you go to the Network Plus side of things, so let's look at the N10-008 study recommendations that are on my site. So videos, books. So there's already some N10-008 books that are out. CompTIA released on the first day their CertMaster Learn, their CertMaster Labs, their CertMaster Practice. That's all on the CompTIA website right now. And I've made videos of each one of these. So if you're not familiar with the CompTIA products, the videos of these will drill down into them. You can see more about how those particular products can help. But there's just more available for 007. We have transitioned our study groups to 008 because the industry has really transitioned over to 008 right now. So I don't have any study groups that will be specific to 007 because I have 3 years worth of those that you could go back and watch. And they're all archived on my website. So I don't think that that we'll be doing any more live streams of 007. We're going to continue with the live streams of 008, but you have years and years and years of 007 study groups that you can always go back and watch replays for. So it's always good. Yes, on that page on your browser, you probably never see anything there because your browser blocks them. You got a block on your browser that stops them from displaying. That's what that is. So it's your browser, but you can undo that if you'd like, and it'll show those. Another question from the chat room. Hey, I ordered study material yesterday. Will it be for 007? Well, on my website, there's a section for 007 Network Plus and a section for 008. So it depends which one you bought as to which one you will be receiving. That's why I always say find the one that you're going to take. Make sure all your study materials match that one so that it's there. Best way to do it. When is the next live study group? I love these questions. It's a gimme right at the top of the Professor Messer website. Hey, there's a calendar link. And that calendar link will take you to the calendar where I have all of the events. Hey, look, today's the Network Plus study group. Oh, look, tomorrow's the Security Plus study group. And then you can always go to January, look at all the January date. They're all in there. Whenever I book them, I stick them in there immediately. So you will always know when that next event is going to be. And if I change it, that's where I change it. I change it in there instantly. For those of you that are not on our Discord, over on Discord, there is the Professor Messer Discord also has an events calendar on the Discord that's new. So whenever I update it in my calendar on my website, I also update it in the Discord. And if you're in the Discord when I go live, it notifies you, which is kind of nice too. Have all of that. So that's another one you could step through on the Professor Messer website. I love having the Discord here because when we're done with this this side of things, when we're done working through the live stream, most of the time I'm not live. Most of the time, this isn't a Twitch channel. I'm not live all the time. So I'm usually here creating more content, but I always have the Discord up and running. So if you're somebody who wants to be able to talk with others who are studying, or you just want to reach out or send me a private message, Discord's a great way to do it. I also check my DMs on, and I'm notified on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I try to find out when those are going to be so that we can, of course, do that. That would be good. Yes, I have not seen anybody take the 501 in Japanese. And I say maybe trying to learn Japanese so you can take the 501 before it retires in the first quarter is a little bit more than the challenge I would like to go through. So I think that's one where I don't know that I'd be able to do that. When I went to Japan, I've been to Japan for to do some presentations to United States military who was stationed in Japan. And so everything I did there was in English, so I didn't have to learn Japanese. And they had just enough English written on the signs that I could find my way around. But that's one of those places where that's a complex language to have to learn. So best of luck learning your Japanese so you can take your Security Plus. I think maybe just learning Security Plus in English may be your better choice to be able to get there. I think that's always a challenge. This is why I told people when you were coming up on the changes between the 501 and 601, I was pretty dramatically telling people you really should take 501. You really need to take 501. And for some reason, there were others in the industry that said, no, 501 is going to be harder. Like, what are you talking about? You haven't run the numbers. 501 was much easier. But security And the role of IT in security has gotten bigger through the years. So it really does make sense that the Security Plus exam has expanded out. I just was not expecting it to expand so large and so quickly, but boy, it sure did. But I think that really speaks to security and what we're doing with security in the industry right now. So anyway, work through that. Danny in the chat room, let me put you at ease. Danny says, I mistakenly ordered the Network Plus study notes twice when you meant to order the Network Plus and Security Plus notes. You sent me a contact form. I will see it right after this. I'll click the button and make sure you have access to the right things. No worry. We got you covered. I can do anything on this side of the screen. So there's nothing we can't fix. It's all easy to take care of, and I can do that just in a matter of minutes. I am quite honestly, I have to sneak out of here very quickly at 2 o'clock. We have a hard stop on the study group, but I will try to get to that before I have to go to my next scheduled event, so that you can absolutely get access to those things. Yeah, that's one of the things on my site that I'm able to kind of get in there and fix a lot of the things that are on the back end. So if you ever run into a problem, you're trying to figure it out, I'm constantly checking for people submitting information on my website on the Contact Us link. Obviously, if you already have an account, you have a link to a help desk that's inside if you're already in that member area. That gets the highest priority because I see those. I have a whole process behind the scenes that really shows up. If I have someone who has a membership and they want information, that's the one I jump on first. And these are usually things I can fix just in a couple of seconds. So it's not a big deal. We got you covered. And I'll take care of that right after we're done. Edwin in the chat room ordered some fudge. I will let Uncle Phil know. I have to chat with him when we're done here on some other things because it's the holidays and what do we get our parents and what do the kids want? He's got little ones and what do they like? I don't know what kids like anymore. So, do they like Lincoln Logs? Do they want a spirograph? I don't know. So I have to contact him. He goes, no, he wants this Minecraft thing. Like, of course he does. So I have to get with him anyway to figure out, what do your kids want? I'm not going to get a card. We're not going to get a gift card for the kids. Kids need a present. They need to get a thing. So that's it for those. Do I have performance-based questions in my Discord? Not in the Discord, but if you go out to professormesser.com, well, do I have any for Network Plus yet? I don't have any for Network Plus yet. I need to put some in there. In my Network Plus Take 10 Challenge, which I have not built out for 008 yet, I'm planning to add some. So keep checking in with me. Keep checking into the website. Look for the Take 10 Challenge to appear for the N10-008 because I know I want to make a performance-based question like I did for A+. So if this will give you an idea of what I want to do. So here's my Take 10 Challenge for A+. I have some quizzes, but I also have performance-based questions. There they are on the screen. So here's a performance-based question for A+ that is about port numbers. So this is every port number that you need to know for the A+ exam. And I'm not even going to look at these. I'm just going to drag and drop a bunch of stuff down. So this allows you to kind of drag and drop into what you think it is. And then when it's done, you can submit the answers and it will tell you which ones you got right. Hey, I got one right. So see how easy it is? I got one of these correct. It gives you a score at the end. And then you can say, oh, let's do this again. I only got 1 out of 19 in 17 seconds. What's the leaderboard look like? Look at this. We have people that have gotten all of them correct in 19.35 seconds. We got a tie for first. I did not even know that was going on. You guys are crushing it. You guys are doing great. But I'd love to do one like that for Network Plus. So I have not done one like that yet for Network Plus, but I want to. And I have a new content creator that has started with the company, and she is creating those. That site with the drag and drop is on my website under the A+ training this is Core 1 not pop quizzes, under the Take 10 Challenges, Take 10 Challenge. So go to the Take 10 Challenge, and it's one of the Take 10 challenges. I not only have quizzes, but also performance-based questions. So I want to also have those for the 008. So we'll be doing that as well. In the chat room, Tonyfied with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Tony. We appreciate your support. Tony says, love your videos. Have recommended your site to 50 plus techs over the years. You're our best marketing arm, Tony. Thank you. What might you suggest to help people, to tell people, to convince them that this information is valuable and will make them more successful? That's all I do every day. That's all day, every day for me, Tony. I try to just get the word out. It's difficult. It's sort of tempered on the internet, isn't it? You have a group of people that tell you certifications are worthless and what are you wasting your time on this for and why are you even doing that? And then you have another group of people that say, well, I've done this. Employers are looking for this. I've done this in my career and made money and gotten better jobs and had created a stable home for my family, all from IT. I'm speaking directly about my experiences. That's what I try to get out to people, is that there's no upside to this, or there's no top level to this. There, of course, is an upside. There's an upside every day. You can level up and level up and level up in this career infinitely, it seems. And I went and looked at, I don't know if I should, well, I won't give you specific numbers, but I was looking at tax forms when I was working for a third party. I went back in time and was looking at some of my tax stuff this past week. And I was looking at what did I get paid for a year. I was working as a systems engineer for a next generation firewall company, and did happen to have a year where we did very well with our sales. For those of you that aren't familiar with the way this works in the industry, if you work as a sales engineer, we call them systems engineers. It's sort of a pre-sales engineering role where you walk in, you talk to people about what challenges they have, you find a solution that fits best for them, you do evaluations of the technology, and you answer any questions they might have. So you have to be really knowledgeable in that technology. And 1 year we did really well. The way you're paid is you have a base salary. For systems engineers, that's commonly somewhere around 75 to 80% of what you make is a base salary. And then if you make 100% of your quota, you get the other 20 to 25%. And if you do better than your quota, there are bonuses based on that. You make even more money from that. But my last big job with that particular manufacturer was, well, it was up there in the six figures. We did definitely six figures and then some. And it just reminded me that this is why I tell people that there is an upside. There's always a path up. And it's a combination of things. It's not just about the money. It's also about your personal knowledge in this technology. It's about the flexibility you now have in the position that you found. It's your ability to find the right position for you. That job that I had paid very well, but I had to get on a plane on Monday and fly around the country, in some cases around the world with some of the jobs that I've held, fly back on Friday, and I'd have the weekend at home. So I wouldn't be able to see my family during the week. If my kids had events, I wouldn't be able to attend their events during the week. There are advantages and disadvantages to any job that you might have. And I would meet people in my travels who would tell me, man, I could not do that. I couldn't get on a plane and be gone from my family all week. I understood completely. It was a role I sort of found myself in. And after a while, we kind of got into a system where we could make it work, where I had Mrs. Professor Messer at home. She could do things at home when I wasn't there. And then on the weekends, I could kind of make it up and we'd spend family time together, and we'd really put an emphasis on that. But I absolutely understood where they were coming from. That's a tough role. Of course, that job is going to pay more because the job has a little more sacrifice for someone who's in that role. But let's say in this particular case, I was talking to somebody who was working for, I think it was a school, a university system, and they had a lot of flexibility in their schedule. So they could come in very early and leave very early, or they could come in very late and leave very late. And for their particular family situation, it was great that they could get there very early and they could leave just in time to go pick up their kids from school. So it worked fantastic for them. That type of flexibility you don't get until you have moved up in the industry, until you have made that flexibility based on your personal knowledge. It's one of those unusual jobs where the knowledge in your brain now gives you the ability to find a job that gives you control over what you would like to do with your life. And I think that's what we all want in our jobs, is to have some level of control on what we are able to do with this. Do I want a lot of money and travel? Do I want less money and stay here? Do I want a mix of those two? You've got the choice. Eventually, when you move up 2 or 3 rungs in IT, you'll start to see there are now choices that you can make. Do I go work with the cloud team, which is a complete remote job? Do I start work towards a pen test plus where I might have to travel to a remote site? Do I get a job as a systems engineer where I'm traveling all the time? Or maybe I'm just inside. A lot of systems engineering jobs are in the same city. If you live in a big city, you don't even have to leave the city. There were some SE roles for people in New York that never left the block. They had a block was their territory, which was remarkable. They went the same train every day into town to the same block, to the same set of buildings, and that was their territory. So that is one of those that becomes pretty important, that you have control over that. I loved traveling around. I got very familiar and very comfortable with being in airports and hotels, and that was just the normal part of my world. I was definitely a road warrior. And it's one of those where I've got, a million miles on Delta, a million miles on a bunch of other airlines combined. You get to be the Marriott, Platinum, Gold, whatever they are, Diamond, whatever things they are. It just is boring after a while because you're just gone all the time. It's something nice that they can give you, like, you're going to be here again tomorrow night and the night after that and next week and the week after that. Why don't we at least give you a view? Which I appreciated every single time. But that's up to you. The flexibility you get in IT is remarkable. You effectively gain control over your life this way. So I always tell people and try to get the emphasis to them to finally answer your question. How do you get that word out? I get the word out by explaining to them what I've done with my career and the things I was able to do because I learned the things that I'm teaching you. There's no other better way to justify it, to show people it works, than to look at me and I'll tell you what I did. My first job was literally working in the fields. I worked agriculture jobs because I lived in a small town with nothing but agriculture jobs. That's where I grew up. I grew up in a county in Florida that still today does not have a red, yellow, green traffic light. We all got pickup trucks. I am country. It's not, you wouldn't look at me in this. No, really, here we go. Let me say it again. No, really, I'm country. That's not something you would recognize, but you learn a lot when you have a hoe and you get there at 8 a.m. and you spend all day in the field working the ground, and you get back in the truck at the end of the day, in the back of the truck of the pickup, drop you off at home, and you do the same thing the next day. You learn very quickly the value of an education, and you never forget that. So this was something I always had an interest in technology. So why not use that interest for a career? And then everything else was sort of a bonus. From my very first IT job or technical job, I couldn't believe it. Like, you let me do this with technology all day? It's like a playground of technology. That's just fantastic. I love that. And then they pay you too? So there's just bonus upon bonus upon bonus. All you have to do is go out and get it. It's out there. So that's why I try to tell people this is valuable stuff. Whether you work towards getting the certification, whether you're using this just as your own personal knowledge, do it, because there is an advantage. There's an upside to this that you'll be able to use, and certainly to help you through what you're doing. Question real quick. This is a good one to, since we're getting to the top of the hour. A question from Steven says, how would I leverage an acquired certificate for a post like a system admin that supposedly, purportedly, ostensibly requires a college degree? First, by the way, if you're ever looking through job postings and you find a job posting that really looks like something you're qualified for, but they've got some of these outliers that candidates must have a 4-year degree in nuclear science or whatever they put in there, just ignore that. Just send your resume in. You should never be the one to say you're not qualified for a job. Let them be the one to give you the rejection, and just get fine with rejection. Look at this face. I'm good with rejection. I'm very comfortable with rejection. So you just get to where, oh, not the job for me? No problem. Go on the next one. Oh, not the job for me? No problem. Go on the next one. I'm fine with that. I'll find somebody eventually where we can get that all connected together. I have a video, and I want to say it's either in the existing video description on YouTube, or I'll have Lori add it. Lori, add this to the video description, which is my video on how to get a job in IT with no experience. So that's where I kind of explain it's a balancing act between certifications, formal degrees, some practical experience, and then people you know. Some of those are weighted more than others, depending on who you talk to. But I think that you should not limit yourself. I worked with a lot of very intelligent and successful people in IT that did not have college degrees. They thought they were at a disadvantage. I looked at them and said, I wish I knew the things you knew. I wish I could keep up with you and what you were doing. They drove me to learn more. So don't worry that you don't have a particular college degree. Don't worry that your college degree doesn't match what they're looking for. Send your resume in. Worst thing they say is no, and you just keep it moving. That's what I think is the right way to do it. And maybe they are sticklers for having that nuclear technician degree. I don't know, but you don't know. You will occasionally find they are very particular about certain things, but not others. And you may even ask them once you get a call with them, hey, I noticed on the job description you were looking for someone who had a degree in nuclear fission. Is that something that's a make or break? And they'll tell you. And then you can say, okay, got it. Let's keep it moving. It's not a make or break. Great. Let's talk about the things I know and the things I've done. Let's talk about the lab I just set up. Let's talk about the firewall I just installed. You'll never believe what I found on my network. That should be the normal interview thing that you should say. Great. Thanks for having me here. Before we finish today, make sure I tell you the story of what I found on my network yesterday when I installed this new firewall. You know, there should be a techie story that you can tell someone in an interview. Always have a story. That's also in my video. My video on how to get a job in IT with no experience is 30 minutes long. It's a long video, but I promise you, it is chock full. There is no filler in there at all. I squeezed everything I could into that because it's a question that came up so often in these study groups. Okay, everybody, top of the hour. I'm so sorry. We've hit our time. I've hit my time, so I'm going to have to bring this to a close for this time. But it's been a great study group. Thank you for being here in this first hour. Thank you for being here and talking with us through the second hour and the questions that you have, which is always good. You guys have always such good questions. I'll also remind you, Uncle Phil, my brother, literally my brother, would love to hear from you. Go to UnclePhil'sFudge.com. Don't forget those coupon codes, 5 for 20 for traditional fudge, 4 for 24 for the plant-based fudge. That video you're looking for, how to get a job in IT with no experience, just go out to my YouTube channel and search for how to get a job with no experience, or look at the video description of this. We'll add it here in the next day or so. So it will be in the YouTube video description as well. Thank you for being here. Thanks for joining us. It's our last Network Plus study group of the year. Thank you for being here this entire year. It has been a ridiculous, crazy, fun, amazing year. Thank you for being part of that. We're going to be doing some ridiculous, amazing, crazy things next year too. We can't wait to bring you along. It's going to be fantastic. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Network Plus Study Group.